Masquerade has been broken, the mortals hunting us down by the dozens. The elders who held us under their heel and strict guidance are gone, called away by a mysterious force, leaving vacuums of power in their wake. We waited out the storm and survived. Now we awake, rise, and enter this new world of danger and opportunity, unsure if the sects or anyone else survived. All we have is our wits, cunning, and thirst. May the best monster win.
Welcome to Gehenna Gaming. I am Mark Q. Anderson, also known as Marcosius. I have with me a very, very special guest. Once again, Mitchell Wallace. Hello.
Hello. Good to be here as always. Loving it. Also that trailer, fantastic.
Yeah, that trailer is dope. I want everyone to keep that trailer in mind. Kindred Stories is coming. So Mitchell Wallace, obviously co-founder, creative director for Penny for a Tale, but also marketing director for Helmgast. And the reason why Mitchell is here today is because we're continuing our ongoing kind of semi-regular bi-weekly Kultist Wednesday. About every other Wednesday or so, we're going to be having somebody on to talk about cult. Maybe it might just be me talking about cult. Maybe it's all the Gehenna kids sitting together and talking about cult. Or maybe it might be a one-shot or a two-shot, or maybe even another mini-series like we did for Echoes of the Past. The point is, Wednesday is the night for cultists, and today we're going to be regarding Cult Divinity Lost. So how are you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing really good, actually. I haven't had a lot of opportunities to show off the Helmgast, like I'm a professional sort of person shirt. So anytime someone's like, hey, come and chat about Helmgast stuff, I get to break the glass and pull this out.
That's a nice polo.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like got like the whole like motif in the back too. Like,
God, it's so good.
yeah.
Is there a name for that Helmgast eagle?
Oh man, not really. So it was
Tent eagle?
it was like from this old game company that I believe went under, and then we swooped in like the majestic tentacle like eagle and grabbed it. So
It's so cool. I've been fascinated with that logo ever since the first time I saw it.
I know it's like it's interesting, it's captivating. If I saw it on the street, I would not forget it.
Yeah, and everyone knows what it is. So you know, if nobody is in the know who is watching this, Helmgast is actually going to be sponsoring Virtual HorrorCon 2021. And when we were putting the logos up on virtualhorrorcon.com/vendors in the vendor hall, there's the Helmgast logo, and everybody who I talk to, you know, and this is without the words Helmgast, everybody who I talk to knows exactly what that eagle is all about. That's obviously Helmgast. It's obviously for Cult Divinity Lost. So it's a powerful logo.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, and we got them in all these different colors. One day I'm going to animate it, maybe even have like a associated like costume during con, so people just get like attacked by this tentacled eagle.
Well, that's a dope idea. And if you need someone to sit in that tent eagle costume, I'm your man.
Yes. It's going to smell inside what you think cult would smell like if it was just a smell, which is perfect.
Which I think is probably dried urine, BO, and then, I don't know, maybe like...
Cinnamon is what I was thinking. Yeah,
okay.
Like a hint of cinnamon, maybe some paprika.
Just a touch.
It'll be great.
So I want to get an idea of kind of where, like, how did you get involved with Helmgast? Admittedly, I mythologize Helmgast. I mythologize Cult Divinity Lost because I found it much like a dark underground game that no one has played, no one has heard of. I don't even remember exactly where I first heard about it. It was post the Kickstarter, post the Cult Divinity Lost launch. So I didn't even know about the first edition, and finding all these crazy stories about there's like serial killers that played this game, so it was banned in Sweden and Norway, and now there's these like rock star tabletop guys that are building this game out, and in comes you, I keep calling ubiquitous marketer, because you do a lot in this space and you do a lot of good stuff in this space. But how did you first get involved with Helmgast?
Oh, it was enthusiasm completely. I was just talking to Petter Naldo, and we had a marketing meeting for all the amazing stuff coming for Cult Divinity Lost, which I'm going to desperately, because I told him, he told me I couldn't share it, and I told him I'm going to try my best. But I got a big mouth, so who knows? The longer we chat, the lower my resolve goes. But so many awesome things coming in. We were just like, man, I really want to thank you for this like opportunity to hang with you guys and to talk cult and really just Helmgast stuff in general. And
absolutely.
He thanked me and stuff like that, and it was just like this amazing time. Petter is so cool to be around. And when I first heard of him, I was super intimidated, because there's like Cult Divinity has this amazing myth like associated with it. When I talked to Gunilla and Michael, the initial creators of Cult, they were like, yeah, we wanted to make this horror game, and just after it, they discovered that there were evangelicals in Sweden. So they had to have that whole fight. And hearing about it was amazing. But yeah, it was just like you, where I was just kind of going through the internet, and I came upon, and I was always into horror. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, ooh. And then I played the quick start, and I kickstarted it. Ironically, though, I pulled my backing because I didn't get it fast enough. Don't tell them that. So
well, I'll keep that secret to
keep that down low. And so I had to buy it like post the Kickstarter with the second print run.
Well, that is one thing I do have to say, when it comes to Kickstarters, when it comes to cults, Helmgast has a tendency, you guys have a tendency to really put a very careful, slow consideration to quality. And that's one thing that pulled me into this game, is that once I was like, I'm going to buy the book and I want to look at it in person, and seeing the actual artwork, you're holding it, you're like, oh my God, this is legitimate quality. So it makes sense that something like that would take some time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people were like, it's taking too long. Well,
yeah, that was me. I was like, it's too long, Petter. But Petter is, and really the other guys at Helmgast, they have such a wonderful idea about what cult should be. And if it isn't portrayed in what they're writing or the layout and everything, they're going to keep hammering it until it gets to that perfection that we want, which is something I really appreciate. And honestly, I came onto the team to help out with Neotech, the Swedish Helmgast game that was kickstarted, I think about 2 years ago. Gorgeous game. Cyberpunk. Hopefully this year you guys will be able to check it out in its English version. That is our hope and desire. But then when I was helping them out, the other people started asking me for help, including Petter, and then I just became the marketing director. It's really just like enthusiasm where I'm just like, I will pray at the altar of horror.
I don't blame you. And it's there's something about this game and the company in general that really kind of pulls you in it. And I keep running into people that, I worked on that too. And I was a part of this. And they obviously there's a use of freelancers and stuff like that. But I'm always shocked to run into people that have worked on Cult Divinity Lost, or have at least worked with Petter or anybody over there. But his videos about Cult are like, he seems like a very, very cool guy. But the videos, when you first watch them, especially I think the driver, when he's introing the driver, you're like, what am I watching? This he's like walking across a bridge. It's snowing. He's in Sweden. It's like, this is a game and a brand that I want to be a part of. So I don't blame you.
Yeah, like, oh God, those walks. I'm so jealous of his locale every time, because if you're talking about inspiration, like that's got to be amazing. The snow, the visage, everything is just like wow.
So that's kind of how you got started with Helmgast, but and how you got involved with Kult. One of the things that I guess I want to kind of talk about at the top here is that Kult has a tendency to push people off, or turn people off who have delicate sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's slowing down a little bit now. For a while I was worried because it was starting to pick up speed with this kind of rumor mill of, well, it's a game for edgelords, and it's purposefully offensive just for the sake of being offensive.
Yeah.
But looking at things like the horror contract and the safety mechanics that are like baked into the game itself, obviously that's not true. But it is an intense game and it's very dynamic. Like, what are your thoughts on the idea that Kult is an extremely intense game and is not for everybody?
Yeah, I mean, it's surprising because I love horror, but if you point at a roller coaster, I start like getting very nervous. I hate the line. I hate the buildup. Roller coasters stress me out, and I can see the appeal of it because my wife loves it, and I will get on there for her.
Right.
But the opposite is true. She hates horror movies. And while I can sit there like eating a rare steak while I'm watching Ravenous, I'm just like, this is amazing. And it's the same way with Kult. Like, I think with any horror TTRPG, the first thing is approaching it in a respectful way, and I think that Kult did that throughout the whole thing. We had a lot of people looking over the document to ensure that happened.
Yeah.
And what we really want to convey from the start to the end is that this is definitely a more serious game. And we applaud and love the games where you can sit at a table and laugh and down shots of whatever you want and enjoy your night in that way. But people also like that kind of adrenaline and the high stakes of a horror scenario. And so for the people who are like, it's edgy, it's too much. Just like I don't like roller coasters, it's not for everyone, and that's totally okay. There are definitely people out there who enjoy it, and for a lot of people, it's a way to kind of explore very dark themes in the one of the only safe environments that you can, especially if your GM and your players are treating it with the reverence and respect that it deserves, along with having fun. The same thing that kind of makes roller coasters really enjoyable is they put those handlebars right in front of you. If they didn't, it would not be enjoyable. It would be not a good time at all. And in that same way, kind of talking about the horror contract, talking about your lines and veils, having the X card available, all the safety mechanics that you and your table have agreed upon for kind of a safe trip throughout the whole experience. So.
Yeah, and I think that it helps as a GM. It helps me too, because I have a tendency, like, maybe this probably comes from, I don't know, call it childhood trauma or something, but I have a tendency to be very, I don't have many hard red lines with tabletop games, so I need people to tell me what theirs are.
Yeah.
So that I can like modify my scenario to make it fun for everybody. But also, like, once you do put up, I don't know, like using your same analogy, like using the same bars to keep you in the seat of your doom buggy that's bringing you through the emotional roller coaster of Cult Divinity Lost. It gives you a very wide berth to explore some of those darker themes and more intense emotions. Like, a lot of my games have a tendency to go, and it feels very organic, go very hard into dealing with difficult things, but also dealing with hard emotions while facing really devastatingly scary situations.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's like the safety mechanics that really help to allow for kind of a safety net. Like, hey, listen, if we go too far, we've got something to help us.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think that's the best outlook on the genre in general is, you know, enjoy these dark moments, talk with everyone about what could potentially be on it. And I mean, I think tabletop, the industry in of itself is an industry built on empathy, where the currency is empathy. And the more you understand the players and the GMs that you're playing with, the better the whole experience is. And I think I really enjoy that aspect, because there's not many aspects in life where you're kind of rewarded for empathy, for definitely trying to dig into what the other person is thinking about concerning their character, but also as people.
Yeah, and vulnerability. I feel like this game celebrates vulnerability.
Yeah, it does. And like, just people are in this world are it tough times, right? You have broken people, you have people who have just been discarded by society. And I feel like Cult and really dark games in general are a nice a way to work out some of these things in a safe environment. Now, obviously, none of this takes the place of like therapy and professional help, but I know during my sometimes when I play games, I like to put myself in a setting that I know I probably like. It's therapeutic, you know. It's I get to get into that driver's seat, knowing that there's a seatbelt and that the people in the car have my well-being in mind, compared to elsewhere where, you know, people just don't care.
As you crash the car into a bridge abutment.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're gonna be safe. Like, we're gonna be safe, and if we're not, we'll figure it out.
Exactly.
But it's also, I mean, yeah, it's really cool because it there is that huge amount of vulnerability which is celebrated, but there's an empowerment piece to it as well. Like, one of the things that I found very interesting with this game is that I like to kind of teeter on the brink, and I like to have everyone kind of like creep over the edge of oblivion and kind of look over. I'm not the game allows you to do so many crazy things, which we'll talk about in a second, but I like to kind of like have the players put their ear or put the cup on the wall to listen to what's on the other side, and just give them tastes of the beyond the veil. And when they finally get like a real hard look at what's going on, everyone, I don't know, there's like this weird sigh of relief that everyone has. They're like, oh, we're fucked. Oh, thank God. Like, woo! So Cult has different worlds. And I want to talk about these worlds because I want to get your perspective on it. And for those of you who don't know, Cult Divinity Lost, the concept of it is that at one point we were all divine. Now we are imprisoned in what's called Elysium. No, not that Elysium. The Elysium of the illusion of reality. You have people that are trying to distract themselves from trying to figure out what's really going on by, you know, absorbing themselves in social media or pornography or drug addiction or whatever it is. They have their thing that keeps them asleep. And the players essentially are either partly awake to what's going on, or the game itself walks them through waking up. And on the other side, there's not just demons, there's a whole other worlds, a metropolis, there's an inferno, there's a Gaia, which is like a crazy and natural forest. There's Limbo, the Borderlands, the underworld. There's so many different worlds, so many different possibilities. Now, how do you like? What are your thoughts on how you introduce players to it, or do you dive right in? Do you start them in Elysium and like kind of have them creep through? Are you looking at 20-year-long campaigns, or just one that focuses on one world? Like, how do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, one of the really cool parts, and one that I don't think is really explored much so far that I've seen on the Twitch world, is that there are a lot of different worlds and a lot of different kind of focuses of horror. the ones that most people focus on are like Elysium, I think followed by like Inferno, and then Metropolis, and then Gaia, Limbo, and the Underworld have kind of been splattered around there somewhat. But each world has a very interesting mythos and creature types behind it, as well as kind of a different focus on a dark piece of horror. I know for my own campaign, I Am Pilgrim, which aired over on what is now known as Weave the Tale, I wanted it to focus on Limbo and Gaia. I wanted to avoid not Elysium, but Inferno and Metropolis as best as I could. And I think for the most part, I was able to achieve that, though obviously sometimes we lingered on the other places. But it's really kind of like letting your players know kind of where the game is headed, and trying to get the themes that kind of follow along with that. I mean, Gaia had like one of my favorite things is in Gaia, some of the rules are like, you feel more passionate. You can even be more fertile while you're in this plane known as Gaia. And so kind of having that in mind, dealing with struggles of kind of abandonment or passion, while like the Underworld is you're continually going into like this dark place. And probably the Underworld is one of the places I'm most excited to explore in like this year, because I just moved to Baltimore, and there's lots of tunnels and wonderful places. And I just watched As Above, So Below, or So Below, As Above. It's one of those two horror movies based in France in the catacombs.
With the catacombs, yeah.
Yeah. So like these communities just living under the earth and in slowly like continuing down to the darkest places, and really kind of looking inwards throughout the whole thing. I think a campaign where you can reflect on the sins that you believe you've committed throughout your whole life would be really cool. But it's really kind of, if you read the first paragraph of any of the different planes of existence, we'll call them, you can definitely get a sense of what is the focus of this area, and then you could bring that in and use that to kind of put a little oomph in your campaign.
I like that idea. You like, you kind of just add a little extra.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one, and definitely for like I like a slow burn. So by the end of a campaign, especially with new players, like they're like, what the hell is this place? And then I'm like, it's Gaia, or it's Metropolis. And then like as the curtains close, I explain what the fuck will go on with their characters for the next bit, for like the season 2, or maybe never.
So cool.
Yeah, it's kind of when you wake up in the middle of the night and the curtains are slightly open, you see kind of like a little bit of the pale moonlight trickling into your room. You want that kind of feel where the darkness is a place where, as you look around, where your kind of horror creative mind can run away, but you have those bits of light which kind of illuminate certain aspects of what you're trying to focus on.
I've always wanted to have a campaign where the players explore each aspect of these planes of existence, and literally feeling like they're drowning in them while seeing Elysium slowly, like, I can only get back if I can only get back,
Yeah.
And I kind of came up with this concept, and I don't know if I'll ever do it on the stream, but it would be great for like a long running campaign.
Yeah, I think like every season potentially focusing on a different aspect, or maybe even 2.
Yeah, because you could really focus in on one place for quite a while. Like your players can get literally lost in Metropolis, and I mean definitely in Gaia.
Oh yeah, it's crazy there. That's
Gaia kind of reminds me of Jumanji.
It reminds me of a I guess if the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland just less Tim Burton-y and more kind of
less curly trees.
Yeah, like less silly.
There's have you ever seen In the Mouth of Madness?
I have not. No.
Oh, you would love it. You would love it. I know you would
love.
love it. It's a horror movie. I can't remember the name of the actor.
Killing me.
I know, it doesn't matter.
Is it
In the
Christian
Mouth of
Bale?
Madness it's like a 90s movie. It's kind of Lovecraftian. It's kind of loosely based on Sam Neill. Thank you, Ian. Yeah, so the actor's name is Sam Neill, and he plays an investigator, like a private investigator, and he's hired to look for this author who has disappeared in this town, which supposedly doesn't exist, which is based on an imaginary town in his horror books. And there's on one of the covers of his books, there's a picture of like these weird animals and bugs kind of in this weird cacophonous orgy. And whenever I think of Guy, I always think of that one cover in this movie.
Oh gosh, yeah. Or there's a movie called The Wild Hunt.
Yeah.
Oh, you've seen it. I have never met someone else, but I think that's a perfect example where they're like tossing their wallets and their possessions into the fire, and then they just go ham on everyone else. Like it's
great movie.
Yeah, I can't believe I've met someone who's seen it. Like it's
Mitch, I don't know if you know this about me, but I watch some weird freaking movies.
Hell yeah.
So in first edition, there was a maybe you can help clear this up because I'm confused about it. There's a couple of books which are easily findable on the internet.
Yeah,
I would suggest everybody go and try to maybe, I don't know, look on like Drive-Thru-RPG first to see if you can buy it first.
Yeah, otherwise it's pretty tough.
Before, like, I don't know, God forbid, raising a boned flag to find it. But there is one that's like, it's like an Inferno like map. I think it's called Map of Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
Was that an official book or was that a like community developed or community content?
Oh man, I think that was a community one, if I recall, because I know Gehenna and Michael really like to leave kind of a lot of the world to the players themselves. And Petra does the same thing where like every section of like Inferno and stuff like that, you get some description, but you don't get like a detailed explanation about how everything works.
Right.
And that's kind of the point of it. It's just so chaotic, and you know, we are not to know. We are not to know.
It allows you to come up with your own stuff too.
Yeah, and I think that's one of my favorite parts is watching other people play Kult because and run Kult, because I'm like, oh man, I never thought about it like that. That's really cool. Like that's one of my favorite aspects, because people definitely zero in on different aspects of the mythos, and watching that play out on TV is amazing.
Who's your favorite? What's your favorite principal, and who is your favorite? Or what's your favorite Archon? Who's your favorite Death Angel? That's what.
Oh man. So Nihamath, I think it definitely stands as one of my favorite, and I'm gonna actually pull up the book
that's
here.
War, right? Nihamath?
I think so. You got me like tripping here.
That's okay. I felt like I just gave you a pop quiz, and that wasn't my intention.
No, you're cool. Like I've always thought like, what would be my favorite? And I know Nihamath, because whenever I play D&D, like I always try to grab one of the principalities and just grab that name and try to play that character in D&D. Much to the sadness of some of the people at the table whom I love. Thank you for letting me play. But yeah, I think Nihamath. I know. Man, what was the one for Oakwood Heights is also a favored one of mine.
Was that Gamachoth? I think in Oakwood Heights.
I think so.
Or Togarini, one of the two.
Yeah, and really, I had written, which I haven't released yet, a sequel to Oakwood Heights. That kind of follows one of the main characters like a decade or two post the original original scenario. which brings in kind of like a different principality, kind of like the opposite of what was emphasized in the first one.
That's
Which
so
I really
cool.
liked.
So it sounds like you have this approach of like kind of honing in on maybe principality and like or influence from a death angel.
I think like if you want to have a really strong campaign, tying it to one of these, because then you have kind of like motives, and of course you're not using that exact principality because they don't give a crap about us in terms of like an everyday campaign, but you know they're clerics and such on who handle their day-to-day, seeing how they interact and knowing who they serve, I think is really important to kind of really getting that good storyline.
Yeah, and I think it helps to kind of guide things along too, because whenever I've tried to have multiple principalities or like a because there's a concept I was playing around with of like different parts of a setting will have the influence of one or the other, right? So you'll have the influence of Togarini in financial district or what have you, and then Gammachoth will be, I don't know, maybe in a low income area or maybe a sex dungeon or something. But it just I feel like it gets too much, and you're having like you stop focusing on the players and you start focusing more on these like principalities. You get lost in it.
Yeah, exactly. And really a principality, what you're looking at are what their principles are, the things that they emphasize, and you kind of want to zero in on those themes with your player, so that even though you have a principality in mind, you bring it back to the players because they're the ones that matter.
I also like to create characters or situations that happen that merge. I've been doing this thing. If anybody has watched any of my cult games, I put little Easter eggs in each one. So like I'll have a scene ripped from another game that I'll put in like the players will encounter a scene kind of in medias res that's already happening.
Oh, I love for GMs who can do it, and definitely like make sure you're comfortable with it, but having the media res, the flashbacks, making sure like the whole table is flexible, you'll have some great storytelling with that ability. Like I think for Cult, more than probably any other game, it works very well with.
So you talked a little bit about the scenario, but the scenario that you wrote that was in Teroticum.
Oh no! So was it Teroticum? I wrote a sequel to the Oakwood Heights, which
the sequel that was in the sequel to the original that was in Teroticum. So is this scenario? Are we thinking it's going to be put into sometime at some point?
Maybe one day. It's at a point where I am not completely happy with it.
Totally.
And there's definitely some aspects of it that kind of harken back to issues I've faced in life in my past. And so writing it out was really fun. And there's actually a couple of actual plays somewhere on the internet about it. But between feedback and my own view of it, it's definitely not where I want it to be.
Totally.
And then like I got busy with all this other stuff, but I one day would love for it to be released, because William Bedford, what happens to him? Like you have that final, and this is a spoiler, but you have that final creepy moment concerning him, but it's like, what happens next?
Yeah, you want to know where he goes, what he does, and how he's heavily affected, and
how everyone's just like messed up afterwards.
So let's talk about something that is coming out soon. The Kickstarter.
Yep.
So we've got, it's a monster Kickstarter, by the way.
Oh gosh, so much amazing stuff. Like one of the things I'm most excited for is the book with all the stuff that we can't release to retail.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, like Rocket's red glare is one of the scenarios that will be printed, and this is the only time we'll print it. If we won't sell it to retail, it can't.
So we have there's Beyond Darkness and Madness,
Mm-hmm.
Screams and Whispers,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then there's the resources, the Labyrinths and Secret Chambers, which is basically just a collection of maps, and the weapons deck, the cards for weapons. So you're saying there's going to be like all of those like can't bring to retailer, kind of, whether they be a translation or something like what Jacqueline wrote for Rocket's Red Glare.
Yeah.
A great scenario, by the way. I want to run this so badly, but
me too. Every time I want to, it's like it's maybe not a good time.
Yeah, same. But now that like I feel like we're getting close where we can.
Yeah, we're past it. Hopefully we're past it. I definitely think we're at a place where we can start playing that scenario.
Yeah, because running Trump's campaign.
Yeah, it's
Cult Divinity Lost. It's interesting. So that's going to be printed in this book, and that's not going to be brought to retailers at all. So the only way that you can get it is through this Kickstarter.
Yes, yeah, it is. It was an unlocked add-on called the Forbidden, which you can kind of find down on the Kickstarter. And this is the only time you'll be able to get it. Like, I'll probably hog a lot of them. But like, obviously with some of the items within the book, we can't have it in like a local game store, especially here in America, where game stores are usually associated with like kid-friendly stuff. So
yeah, it's hard. It's got to be very, very hard. I mean, you have a market, and that market definitely is not in retail.
Yeah, it's not like, you know, you have your D&D, and then you have Cult, and don't pick up the Cult book unless you're an adult, please. We don't want to hear it.
So what's also going to be in this one is I'm going to get this wrong because I changed the name of it for our actual play. I called it Echoes from the Past, but I think it's called An Echo from the Past. And I think when it was in its original iteration, it was called something slightly different. The name was slightly different.
Yeah.
Echoes in the Past or something like that. So what's cool about this is that what's monstrous is that essentially, if anybody's backing this and adding this this add-on, I mean, you have the Forbidden, you've got the two source resources, but more importantly, Beyond Darkness and Madness and Screams and Whispers. Can we talk about that? Like, what is in each of those?
Oh man, so this is probably one of my favorite parts when we were doing the Kickstarter was telling people like all the amazing stuff that is going to be in it. And we did interviews with almost all of the writers concerning everything. For Beyond Darkness and Madness, like that is your game master guide. There just wasn't enough room in the original book, and really, like, we gave the rules, we provided some guidance, and we laid out like the different mythos that you can explore. Beyond Darkness and Madness kind of definitely goes deeper into how to do cult and how to do it in a fun way. So between like the kind of cultivating a good storyline with the use of like an intrigue map, which you guys are probably familiar with like Vampire, Masquerade does that. I'm sure a couple others that I'm forgetting right now do too. But it definitely helps flesh out the for a GM for these kind of long-term campaigns of investigation. Also how to like cultivate atmosphere, which is probably one of my favorite parts. I feel like the horror genre, especially in TTRPGs, is very tactile. There's lots of things you can describe. In D&D, I don't care if the air tastes like salt. It's probably cool. I'm going to forget it the next couple of minutes. In Cult, I'm like, why the fuck does it taste like salt? That's why? And just the things that you can touch and feel, and kind of the shivers in the back of your neck, the hands running through your hair, the slight itch of your eyeball, and the taste of an eyeball.
Delicious.
I think candy corn is what I'm thinking.
Well, it's sort of like the back of the GM screen. It has that little. I love that jam screen, but there's like a little list of little mini descriptions of things that you could just kind of grab as you're trying to describe what's going on in a particular scenario or situation.
Yeah, and that's kind of, if you really want to up your horror GMing skills, or even as a player, reading horror novels and seeing how like a lot of the greats kind of created that sense of atmosphere.
Yeah.
I was just watching The Shining, and dear God, just a couple of scenes in the music, the noise, the grittiness of something rubbing against another hard piece. Like, it's just like there's so much anxiety surrounding what you can project without any monster at all, that I think will be really cool. Yeah, the soundtrack for The Shining is, oh man, it's probably one of my favorites after the soundtrack for Ravenous, which is probably one of my favorites.
So I'm gonna introduce two things to you. I don't know if you might already know about this.
Do it.
There is a guy who goes by the name of The Caretaker, he's got 2 albums. The first one is called I think it's called The Music from the Ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
And it's heavily inspired by The Shining, but the music is it's ballroom music, but it's very like degraded and it's scary. Like, it's a scary album. And then he has what's the name is going to hold on, I'm gonna have to look it up, because
the cool thing about like interviews during COVID time is that if there's any question for anything, you're just like, I have a computer here.
You can look it up. So it's called I reached into my memory, the Google memory bank, and it's called Everywhere at the End of Time. It's 6 full-length albums. It's a very emotional journey if you listen to them back to back. But it's basically, the concept is ballroom music that's slowly degrading more and more and more with every album. I'm going to send you on a rabbit hole with that one. But
I'm out. Peace.
But the second one that I'm going to introduce to you is this fan edit of The Shining called Red Rum. And essentially what it is I was telling Ian about this yesterday. It's The Shining played normally, and superimposed silently played backwards is the same movie. So as you're watching it, you can see at like 50% opacity, like various scenes from earlier or later scenes. There's one scene in particular when the dad goes in to talk to Danny, and you could tell the son's like kind of scared of him, right? When you're watching the original movie, you just watched the other day, it's like, oh, well, he's scared that his father's going to hit him or something, or he's going to spank him, or he's going to be in trouble. During that scene, superimposed over it is the dad going around with an axe trying to kill them. And there's little gems like that throughout the entire movie.
Oh, that is perfect. Yeah, it was Kubrick in that sense was a genius, just with the cultivation of atmosphere.
Oh my God, yeah.
And that's what we're trying to do with everyone, is make them mini Kubricks in that sense. So yeah, I think like that and the reflection aspect, which is part 3 of the book, which kind of goes into personalized and divergent stories. But stuff that helps a GM, like Kult, I think is definitely more nuanced and maybe even daunting for people to kind of hop in and run. And we're throwing this book at people and saying, you can do it.
Yeah.
Do the thing.
And the system is so easy to and intuitive that I don't know why anyone would be scared to run this outside of the themes.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really cool, because I was running a game the other day, and we went like a whole hour and a half without rolling, and I was like, you guys are doing such great work. I don't feel like I need to do anything, which is another aspect I love.
And you're still playing a tabletop game.
Yeah, like it's awesome. Like everyone just working to scare each other and like dive into the darky depths of these souls. Like it's amazing time.
And so there are certain types of players of Cult too. You have those that like to go hard into the, oh my God, what the hell is happening? And others who like to dive into the evil and corrupt their character completely.
Yes, like I when I ran I Am Pilgrim, I was surprised by many of my players the depths of their depravity. And I was just like, whoa, God.
I need to play this game not streamed because I've only, that's not true. I've played it non-streamed, but for like convention audiences. So for people who are signing up for Virtual HorrorCon,
Yeah.
and for, I think I did it for SafeCon too, or it might have been, no, I think it was just Virtual HorrorCon. I did a couple of I ran Cult for people non-stream, but I want to play it at like a home game,
Yeah.
not stream with people that I know, just to see kind of where everyone takes it.
Yeah, I remember it was the first time I did Oakwood Heights, and I feel Oakwood Heights I'm gonna harp on or hop on a lot just because it's one of my favorites.
Totally.
I printed out everything from pictures, everything that I think the lieutenant would present as information. We turned off all the lights and we just had candles. And when we like got to the house, everyone stood up and we like engaged with each other and talked. And I like had like a place in for like the microphone of the reporter. And yeah, there's so many cool things you can do in a once we can touch people again.
Yeah, and that one in particular, because it's an investigation, right?
Yeah,
and it's an interrogation.
Yeah, it's so delicious. And I mean, Lacina is another really good one. You're talking about the course dinners throughout the whole thing, and every like dinner sparks another sort of scenario or conversation.
This is the one with the family.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I think Nick, one of the other guys in Gehenna Gaming, ran this as, I think he called it the holiday dinner for our patrons.
It's so good. And like I've heard of people actually making the meals with that were specified within the book and doing the whole thing. Like
that's so cool.
Yeah, if you're ever curious about how to make your Thanksgiving family dinner the best, just cook the meal, give them each their characters, and watch it go. Grandma's gonna love it.
Oh man, Grandma might go too far.
Grandma like
I got things to say. I'm 80 and I'm allowed to say them now.
I know, right? Like they just do whatever they want.
Have you played the Summit at all?
The Summit, yes, I have. I found that to be amazing. Like I am always a huge fan of Hellraiser, and
yeah,
I love depictions of kind of these grotesqueries that you kind of saw in Hellraiser, or even like Human Centipede and horrific movies like that. Like it's intense to kind of watch that survival. It almost reminded me of there was, I think, of the Indonesian film. Man, it's gonna drive me crazy, but
it's because you're talking to me. I have that effect.
I
always forget the name of certain things or certain movies and actors.
If anyone can remember it, it came out a couple years ago, but it was almost like a Judge Dredd where they were going up the tower of this apartment complex, kicking so much ass, and it was such a riveting tale told within that context. But
I think I've seen the trailer for it, but I don't think I've actually ever seen that movie.
You gotta watch it. Whatever the name of it was, I'm waiting for Neil Ian to tell us the name of it.
He might be quietly drawing a blank along with us. Oh,
the Raid. There you go.
Of course you knew.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah, it's called The Raid, everyone.
It's The Raid. Go watch it.
Yeah, the Summit's cool because it has that. What's neat about the Summit is that you have these pockets of really messed up stuff going on, and them in and of itself can be an adventure. Like I've run this a bunch of times, and I've had people that didn't even make it into the city.
Yeah.
let alone, God forbid, into the summit, which is this big tower, Monarch Tower. And every floor, something nuts is happening. It's something very intense and weird and scary and frightening.
I'm waiting for like a Snowpiercer version of that with like the train cars all the way down.
You, sir, are a genius.
I was just watching it the other day and I was like, oh man, I need a train scenario.
Yeah, we'll just take the building and put it on its side, put some wheels on it, and have it go.
We'll credit Matthew. It's fine.
Yeah. You know what? We'll even put Matthew in it. We'll have him. We'll have a character based on.
He could be the conductor.
Yeah. Who's the one that who's the one with the big thick glasses? Was she wasn't conductor. The one that was like the.
Oh yeah, she had like the front teeth and everything. And
they made her eat the roach patty.
Yeah, I think the actress was Tilda Swinton.
Yes.
I don't remember what her character was, but man.
We'll have Matthew Dawkins be that.
There we go. The whole dress and the teeth. We'll have teeth ready for him at the next convention.
Yeah, we'll make it a whole live LARP.
Yeah.
On an actual train.
Yes. We're there.
Yeah, we're doing it. This is the kind of cool creativity that Kult brings. I mean, I think that's one of the, you mentioned how both the original creators of the game and Petter, is that there's this idea of just being kind of general and not so specific on the fine details, because it allows for this kind of thing. Like I'm feeling very inspired to run all sorts of different things for Kult. I've got 9 different concepts I want to do for this game, to test it out, to see if it's fun, to see if it's interesting. Kult allows me to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I in my latest campaign called Gordian Solutions, I took them to space. Like they're on a space station, not too far in the distant future, like just kind of like basic tech. And that was fun too, trying to figure out like what a Kult scenario would be like, and Event Horizon always comes to my mind as something I love and adore. And so I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that sounds very Event Horizon. It's very cool.
Yeah. If I ever see a ship named Event Horizon, I'm hopping on. I'm right with the Jurassic Park dude.
Oh, absolutely. Liberate, Tute Me, X and Ferris.
Oh, yeah. Now we're screwed. Never getting in a vehicle again.
That is one thing I do actually want to see post-apocalypse, after COVID. It's a weird phrase, but
right?
when all the vaccines are out and we're able to go out into the world and say hi to each other again, I want there to be Kult LARPs, and I'm interested to see where that goes. And what people do with it. And I would love to see I would love to see high budget LARPs, but I would also love to see like no budget LARPs. And just like you were talking about, like getting together and having your own investigation and your own little interrogation, and do the scenario as a LARP, not just as a sitting at a table kind of situation. Yeah,
I did LARPs for Mind's Eye Society for their conventions, and thinking about like the next conventions having these wonderful environments, and I don't think it'll even cost that much to get the stuff that you need.
No, I not really.
Yeah, it's modern times, so everything just kind of flows nicely, and I love making items and stuff for it, and I already have a lot of costume stuff like this. Everyone should have one of these.
I want one of those
on your desk just in case.
That's have so another cool. Face. That's awesome. I want to wear that on like a professional Zoom call.
Yes, just be like, all right, TPS reports.
You look on. Can everyone see my screen? Can anyone see my face?
Do I have something? Is it acne? I don't.
So Martin Erickson likes to tell a story that he's told over and over again about how when he was younger, he used to play Kult. And he played a very special kind of Kult. He played a Vampire the Masquerade Kult mashup. if you throw a dead cat and you'll find on YouTube, and you'll find a video of him mentioning it. And he mentions it in passing, and no one ever goes, wait, hold on, what? And every time I go, no, I want to hear more about this. And it's really interesting because cults and Vampire the Masquerade they're like strange bedfellows.
Yeah.
I've noticed that people who are fans of Vampire Tech tend to also, if they're ever introduced to cult, also like it. And then of course there's Elysium. Is that purposeful?
Oh man.
Do you think? I mean, it's a theory here, so I mean, listen.
Yeah, I think theory-wise, I think yes. I think Elysium and Masquerade kind of gives a semblance of safety and a reliance on social norms to keep everything flowing. In the same way that in Cult, Elysium does the same thing. Like, you trust that everything's okay, but it's not. You trust that the norms and everything makes sense for the machine that you're in, but they don't. But you still follow it. You go to Elysium each and every day, and you expect what Elysium provides every time. And so in that regard, yeah, I think now I'm thinking about, like, I want that crossover.
Yeah, so I would love to see it, what that crossover would be like. I don't even know how you would do it. I've heard rumors that there's a fan-made source book floating around. But yeah, it's an interesting concept. Can you imagine being in a coterie and all of a sudden you're like, hold on, what's going on?
I mean, I like to think, like, what would vampires be in the cult universe? What would be like their reflection? If you can kind of look back on a lot of the cult mythos and assume that what we think of as werewolves and vampires were actually like these horrific creatures that we kind of have romanticized so that we can sleep at night. And what, like, I feel like every vampire would in their true form look like some sort of atrocious Nosferatu from Metropolis.
I think it's a glorious idea. The concept of a front skin and a back skin, the front face of the vampire who's very suave and debonair, but then the illusion drops and it's this frightening monster.
Yeah. I'm into it. Behind every vampire is an 8-foot tall vampire lady who just wants to stomp on you
with like a flesh mask on. This doesn't belong to her.
I'm gonna call up Resident Evil, be like, look, I have some notes for you that can make everything better.
Just take her skin off, but put it back on.
Yeah.
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a little. I made some drawings. Well, listen. I want to thank you so much for coming on for a very, very first continuance of Cultist Wednesday. I hope to have you on again. I hope to maybe convince you to run a one-shot for us one time on this.
I am convinced. Done.
It's perfect. Done. Perfect. I also want to give you an opportunity to kind of plug what you have going on, where people can find you, and what's coming up next.
Yeah, sweet. So, of course, you can find me on all social medias for Penny for a Tale. If you haven't, follow me, follow Helmgast, follow Cult Divinity Lost, because I have all these things I want to pour out, and I cannot wait to do. We have like several, just beyond what the Kickstarter said we would do. We have more stuff going on behind the illusion that we are really excited about announcing, that make everything so much more enjoyable. So we're really happy about that. I would definitely encourage you guys to check out the I Am Pilgrim campaign that I did. I had a lot of fun with Hjalmar from Red Moon Roleplay doing side scenes. So he actually did some videos of himself as one of the main NPCs, as well as a couple of other actors who donated their time to help us make this amazing campaign. So definitely check that out. Otherwise, chill here and enjoy and love Gehenna, especially for the HorrorCon that is coming up. We will definitely be there representing. And yeah, all these cool new things happening. Just make sure you're following the correct channels, and I assure you, you will not be sorry.
So thank you, by the way. Those very kind words. Also, Yalmar is one of my favorite people, and
Isn't he great?
yeah, he's fantastic. We always talk about we need to have him involved in more, but his schedules always come up. But whenever the guys from Red Moon Role Playing do anything cult related, I eat it all up.
Yeah, last time Kalmar and I hung out, we were playing a D&D game, and he was my husband along with two of my friends who were my wives. And they were just disappointed in my character, who desperately wanted to be a financier instead of an adventuring person. So Hjalmar is a multi-talented, faceted individual who you should definitely get on as much as possible.
Yeah, he's great, and we're trying to get him involved in Virtual HorrorCon.
Yes.
Which, to plug what we have going on, Virtual HorrorCon is coming up. That is February 19th through the 21st. We have a lot of really, really cool stuff coming up. We have not posted the schedule yet, and I know a lot of people are looking for it, but it's coming very, very soon. Badges are going to be available, but here's what I can say about it. So 100% of the proceeds from the badges are going to be going to Black Girls Code and the Blind Cat Sanctuary Rescue and Sanctuary. And then, of course, there's going to be tickets to play tabletop games. There's going to be a couple of people running Cult behind the scenes. If you want to play Cult, you can. And also, there's going to be industry workshops with individuals who are going to be teaching you kind of some, best in class, best practices on how to do certain things, or how to break into the industry, or how to up your GM game. And tickets from those, some of the proceeds are going to be going towards charity as well. And of course, we have the live actual plays on our Twitch. The live panels, it's being powered by Gehenna Gaming, but with support from Caring Comfort Studios and Darker Days Radio. All sorts of really cool stuff there. So make sure you check out virtualhorrorcon.com for all those details. And I think, Ian, should I tell them what's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, tell them what's happening tomorrow. So
tomorrow, Ian Ravnos is going to be playing a very special video game which is coming out, and I want you to say the name of the video game.
What? You want me to say the name of the video game?
Yeah, because I forgot it.
That's amazing. The disembodied voice from behind the camera will say that it is Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood.
Earthblood.
Which one is that? The novel, right?
Nope. The novel was Heart of the Forest. Earthblood is the action game.
Oh my God, you're playing that?
Yeah. So I'm going to be streaming that tomorrow.
Yeah, I will be there.
8 p.m. Eastern, right here, twitch.tv/Gehenna Gaming. And of course,
with a special guest.
With a special guest. With our very special guest from ATL by Night, Ellie Collins is going to be heckling Ian the entire time. I'm excited about that part.
But to be fair, anyone in chat can heckle, right?
Of course.
Always.
Yes. Yeah, we're a pro heckling channel here. And then, of course, on Saturday, you're going to see my beautiful face again, because I'm going to be running the next installment, the fourth installment for our Contagion Chronicle saga, the Chronicles of Darkness. I'm running Demon the Descent. That one is going to be a wild fever dream Technicolor rainbow. So get ready, because I don't know whose idea I thought it was to have me run Demon, but holy shit, it's going to be great.
It was mine.
Yeah, you're like, run Demon. I'm like, okay. Thank you so much for watching. Come back here next weekend. In 2 weeks, we're going to be doing something else. I don't know what yet. We're going to figure it out. It's going to be cult related. We're regarding Cult Divinity Lost on Kultist Wednesday. Wednesday was meant for Kultists. Thank you so much. And go give us a follow on Twitter at Gehenna Gaming. Goodbye.
Bye. I don't know.
Masquerade has been broken, the mortals hunting us down by the dozens. The elders who held us under their heel and strict guidance are gone, called away by a mysterious force, leaving vacuums of power in their wake. We waited out the storm and survived. Now we awake, rise, and enter this new world of danger and opportunity, unsure if the sects or anyone else survived. All we have is our wits, cunning, and thirst. May the best monster win.